Red earth, an endless sky, dry winds carrying the scent of eucalyptus. Australia. Many of us may imagine this country as a land of beautiful coastlines, vast wilderness, and a free-spirited lifestyle. But today, this continent is revealing another face, a face as a resource continent, powering the age of decarbonization. Electric vehicles, batteries, renewable energy, smartphones, and the massive data centers driving AI. Behind all of these lies a hidden foundation: lithium, nickel, rare earths, and other critical minerals. So where do these materials come from?
When we hear the word decarbonization, we tend to picture clean surfaces, solar panels, wind turbines, EVs. But in reality, the technologies behind that clean future are built on minerals extracted from the ground. The Australian government has officially positioned critical minerals as a national strategic priority. These minerals are seen as essential not only for net zero goals, but also for advanced manufacturing, defense technologies, and national security.
So this is not just a mining story. It is a story about batteries, about wind energy, about semiconductors, and even about defense. The technologies of the future are built on materials so small we barely notice them, and on landscapes so vast we can hardly comprehend them.
A symbolic example is the Pilbara region in Western Australia. This is where Pilbara Minerals operates the Pilgangoora operation. The company describes itself as home to one of the world's largest independent hard rock lithium operations, making it a crucial part of the global battery supply chain.
The EV displayed in a sleek city showroom. Behind its silent movement, there is the sound of machinery in Pilbara. Perhaps the future does not descend from the sky. Perhaps it is dug out of the earth.
What is important here is that Australia is not trying to remain simply a country that digs resources out of the ground and sells them overseas. It is moving toward refining and processing these resources domestically, turning them into higher value materials for the industries of the future. In other words, Australia is trying to move from a mining nation to a green industrial nation. One of the most symbolic players here is Fortescue. Fortescue grew as an iron ore company, but today it is also investing heavily in large-scale renewable energy infrastructure in the Pilbara region. In April 2026, the company announced a $680 million investment to expand green energy infrastructure in the Pilbara in collaboration with government and traditional owner groups.
An iron ore company building solar and wind infrastructure. There is something quietly paradoxical about that.
Yes, Fortescue's founder and executive chairman, Andrew Forrest, has become one of the most visible voices arguing that Australia should not depend on other countries for its energy future. A company that grew rich through iron ore is now speaking the language of renewables and decarbonization. This is not simply idealism. It is also a very practical strategy for how a resource-rich nation adapts to a changing industrial order.
Not just digging, but refining. Not just exporting, but designing. Australia may be transforming from a warehouse of raw materials into an editor of future industry.
Another key part of the story is rare earths. Australia is home to Lynas rare earths. Its Mount Weld mine in Western Australia is described by the company as one of the world's premier rare earth deposits. Rare earths are essential to the technologies of the future: EVs, wind turbines, electronics, hybrid vehicles, and more.
If lithium is the material of batteries, then rare earths are almost like the nervous system of future technologies. Invisible, but indispensable.
And this is where the conversation becomes geopolitical. Critical minerals are not simply green materials. Who mines them? Who refines them? who controls the supply chain? These are questions of industrial power and of national security.
Behind the language of clean energy, there is also a quiet struggle over resources, a silent race to control the material foundations of the future. But this raises a deeper question. Whose land are these minerals extracted from? Whose communities live beside these energy projects? Whose memories are buried beneath this development?
You cannot talk about Australia without talking about First Nations peoples. Many mining and renewable energy developments are deeply connected to Indigenous land, culture, and rights. That is why the Australian government has launched the First Nations Clean Energy Strategy 2024 to 2030. The strategy is designed to ensure that First Nations peoples are able to participate in, benefit from, and help shape the clean energy transition. It also emphasizes the inclusion of traditional owner groups in energy project opportunities. In addition, the government has announced a 70 million Australian dollar First Nations Clean Energy program over 3 years beginning in 2025.
Land is not just ground. Land is memory, relationship, and responsibility. And if that is true, then the language of decarbonization, however new it sounds, leads us back to a very old question. Who has the right to shape this land, and how?
This connects directly with the nickel story in Indonesia as well. EVs do not emit exhaust on the road. Renewable energy reduces dependence on fossil fuels. All of that matters. But if environmental harm is happening at the extraction site, if land rights are being overlooked, if profits are not fairly shared with local communities, then can we really call that future clean?
Sometimes the word clean hides what we do not want to see. Behind the elegant advertisement for an electric car, there is red earth. Behind the vision of a blue, sustainable planet, there may be someone else's land.
Decarbonization cannot be only about lowering carbon numbers. It also has to ask, how are resources extracted? How is energy produced? How are benefits distributed? And how is land treated? Only then does it become a true design for the future.
The lithium of Pilbara Minerals, the transformation of Fortescue and Andrew Forrest, the rare earths of Lynas Rare Earths, the Australian government's critical minerals strategy, and the First Nations Clean Energy Strategy. These are not separate headlines. They are all connected by one question. Who owns the land that powers the battery future?
Australia is not merely a resource-rich country. It is a continent where decarbonization, geopolitics, Indigenous rights, industrial policy, and environmental questions all intersect. That is why looking at Australia means looking at the structure of the future itself.
The smartphone in our hand, the electric vehicle we ride in, the clean future we believe in. All of it is connected to someone's land, somewhere. The red continent is asking us quietly, is the future really clean? Or are we simply placing the word future on top of sacrifices we have not yet chosen to see? NEOTERRAIN. Until the next field.